It's in a little bit sad shape right now, but she'll be back up and fixed real soon. Good morning, everyone. It's another beautiful day in Los Angeles. Just got to my storage unit. I'm about to show you how to diagnose a low oil pressure light. In this example, it's on a 2007 Sportster Nightster 1200. So recently I started getting the low oil pressure light while I was riding around. Started coming on at about 80 miles an hour when I was in 5th gear, which is top gear on this bike. Then as time went on, it would come on at lower and lower speeds. Anyway, I'm going to describe a little bit how the process went, so that if a similar thing is happening to you, you won't be stuck like I was. It's been a little bit tough to find information online about this, so hopefully this will shed some light for some people out there and help you figure out what's wrong with your bike. So let's go ahead and get into it. So right now I've got a lot of stuff taken off. I started off getting the low oil pressure light, which is this second from the right here. A little bit hard to see, but that red low oil pressure light would come on. Like I said, it would come on when I was in 5th gear doing 80 miles an hour on the highway. Initially I pulled over, checked underneath the bike for leaks, and I wasn't seeing anything. See oil under there now, but that's from something else. So it wasn't actually leaking oil. So I checked the sensor, that seemed to be good. Now that low oil pressure sensor is down here at the front of the bike. It's a little bit tough to show. Basically, if you look at the oil filter there and then work your way down a little bit, right down here you can see the plug that goes to that. That goes to the, if I can get it to focus, that goes to the low oil pressure sensor, okay? Right there. So I checked the wire and everything, looked fine. And then I moved on to checking the oil and the oil pump. So when I drained the oil out of this thing, the first indication that something was actually wrong with this engine was the contents in the oil. Normally you might get some little metal shavings in there. It might be just a little bit sparkly. But on this thing I was getting some chunks of metal. You can see there's like a little metal shaving there. I even got some stuff like still on these gears here. And there was some stuff that was even bigger than that, like pretty good size bits of metal. So that was an indication that something was definitely getting chewed up in this engine. So that's what led me to start taking it apart. So after I determined that the sensor was working right, the light was working right, I wasn't getting a false indication, I went ahead and took off the oil pump, which is right down here at the bottom on the right side of the engine. So that actually bolts up to the bottom of the gear case here. So this is the oil pump right here. That's the outside of it. And then this is also the oil pump over here. It's the oil pump, comes up into here. That's the oil pump gear, which connects to this crank gear, okay, this crankshaft. So the crankshaft actually drives the oil pump directly. And from what I've heard, this oil pump is actually really reliable. It's very simple. I took it apart and nothing looked like it was broken. Nothing even really looked too worn out at all. So from what I could tell, the oil pump is working just fine. So I was getting oil flow and, presumably oil pressure from that. But obviously there was still a problem. So I started taking the bike apart a little bit more. I had to take the gas tank off so that I could get to the rocker box covers. So I took the covers off, got those sitting right over here. Those are just 4 bolts on the top. Pretty easy, just a little tricky getting to a couple of them and actually squeezing them off. You just gotta wiggle them around a little bit until you get them out. So took a quick look up in here. I didn't see any metal shavings or anything. So I was kind of at a loss for what was wrong with this engine, about to actually scrap it and just get another one, because I didn't see it being worth it taking the whole thing apart and then rebuilding it when I could buy a good condition used one for a few $100. But I was looking at it just a little bit closer, decided to take a couple things out before I took apart the bottom end, and as I was looking a little bit closer, I noticed, and you should be able to see here, there's actually quite a bit of wear where these cam gears go. So you can see right there, we've got a pretty unhealthy little bit of wear going on here. See if I can point it out. So right there, that's actually kind of chewed up. It's definitely not too pretty. So you can see it pretty well right there. You can even hear how rough that is, putting a flathead on it. So here you've got the front cylinder exhaust, front cylinder intake, and then for this one, that would be the rear cylinder intake and rear cylinder exhaust. And those two cam gears are right down here. So that one that I was pointing out that's got the real messed up opening, that's where this cam gear bushing goes. So this bushing is supposed to get pressed into that hole, and then it holds the inside end of this cam gear shaft, and the other end, this fat end, goes into this bushing on the case cover. Okay, so what was happening was that after this engine's got almost 50,000 miles on it, after so much time and a little bit of hard riding, this thing started getting worn out, and you can actually see that it had been slipping in the socket in the gear case. But overall, these aren't in too bad a shape. It's the bushings themselves that are messed up, and also the inside there. So basically what was happening was that as things were getting worn down in here, as these parts were starting to chew each other up, it was digging space in here where oil should normally be coming through. And so the oil wasn't getting up to the high pressure that it should normally be. And I was getting the low oil pressure light. So next step is gonna be, I gotta get some bigger bushings pressed in here. I'm gonna replace the cam gears because I've got everything taken off, and I'd like to squeeze a little more performance out of this engine. So probably gonna be looking at a 1275 kit with some, higher lift cams, something a little more aggressive but still good on the street. And definitely looking forward to getting her fixed up. I hope this video helped you out if you're having a similar problem. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.